Awesome. I'm so happy to see everyone here. And we have a great DJ in the back, Mark Fuentes, who is helping with the sound. I am so excited to be able to be here with you all today. I want to share with you, when I was in college, I was a displaced person from New Orleans after we had Katrina. So I'm a New Orleans person, and I ended up moving to northern Michigan. There's a little bit of is there a way to lower the sound a little bit? There's a little bit of a reverb on the sound. All right, I just hear okay, great. Is everyone okay with the sound? Can you hear? Okay, good. So I went to Michigan, Northern Michigan University, which is right up by Canada, and I participated in Relay for Life. And by the way, I was someone coming into the community in Michigan, and I had no sense of community there. And by going to that event, I was able to make so many friends because we did full night. We spent the whole night in this gym, and it was so much fun. And so I just had a grand old time. And I'm realizing I need a clicker. If someone has a clicker for the slides, that would be super great. Okay. Awesome. So I'm so excited the topic that we have today, and I have a full 90 minutes. And I promise you, I'm going to make everyone a little uncomfortable, okay? Thank you so much. All right. And I tell people the person who tolerates the most discomfort has the most growth. Often, in this case, generates the most money and helps grow your organization or your business. So how many of you all are sitting next to someone who's not on your team? I see that Central Park team all connected in the back. Who's sitting by someone who's not on their team? Who doesn't? Okay, perfect. All right, great. Okay, we got one hand up in the back. All right, so ideally, I'm going to tell you this meeting space is golden. Absolutely golden, because you are networking with the top people in your organization. The people who have had the most success. Is that correct? The most success? So you all are the drivers. But I promise you, there are people in the room who are better at certain things than you. And it's absolutely important for you to connect with those people and learn, how did this person get to 2 million on that breast cancer walk? You know, when their goal was 1.7 or overshoot 2 million. How did that happen? How did they do that? Right? So I'm going to show you ways to mine the resources in the room, to mine the resources in yourself, and my goal is to get you a little bit uncomfortable. So there are things that I'm sure you've encountered when it comes to raising money where you're like, I don't know if I can do that. I got my foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. How many of you all have experienced, I don't know if I could talk to this person and ask for this? Raise your hand if you've experienced that. Okay, everyone should be experiencing that, and if you're not, you're in the right room, right? Because if you're not experiencing no, or if you're not experiencing fear, we got to get you to that place, right? Because if you're getting rejection, then you're doing a lot of the things you need to be doing, right? Okay, so my speech for you all today is called Opportunities Are Everywhere. Connecting for the greatest impact. And so we're going to talk about ways to brand yourself. We're also going to talk about your networking sales funnel. So this is a lot of stuff. And by the way, I'm kind of like, I see some people have it open right here in your handout. And I think we're at like 12 pages. So there's a lot of content on this handout. I want everyone to have a pen. Does everyone have a writing utensil? All right. We're going to take notes. And it's going to be kind of like in school. I'm going to give you the bank of answers. And then, by the way, I had my team create like 4 pages of resource pages so you can bring this back to your own team, bring this back to your volunteers, and say, hey, this is what we need to be doing. And if you want to replicate the speech that I'm giving, go right ahead. Okay. Everyone take a deep breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to get you to get uncomfortable. And we're going to do it with our bodies. I'm going to ask everyone to play full out. I'm also going to ask everyone to listen up. There's a lot, it's easy to get distracted in this room because we have sound. So I want everyone in the back to be able to hear everything and be able to also listen to their internal thoughts. Okay, so before I begin my content for you, I'm gonna share openly about my why. This is absolutely fundamental to everything I do. So I own a business coaching firm, which essentially is, if we're talking about the results I get for people, it's I help people perform in their role better. Oftentimes that's making more money or building out their organization better, taking action, being accountable. But behind all of that, I want to tell you about an experience I had when I was younger. So when I was 17 years old, I had an issue with growing up in my family. There was some addiction in the household I lived in. And it was very difficult for me as a young person to deal with this, to deal with the secrets around addiction. And how many of you all know the 3 fear responses when people are in fear? What are they?
Fight, flight, and
Freeze. And what does that mean, freeze?
you just stop.
You just stop. How many of y'all have had it that people get it all the time in micro moments? We had it many of us during COVID. You get that paralysis, right? Well, this particular disorder I had when I was dealing with the issue that was going on with my family was I had a freeze for 10 years. And it was almost impossible for me to speak, right? So I went from being the most gregarious, outgoing girl, friends with everyone in my high school, to being like a shell of herself, and I couldn't express what was going on. Now, the dysfunction in my household made it so that people weren't even paying attention. They didn't notice that this person who was like so bubbly, friends with everyone, who did well in all of her classes, went to like a D student and became like really isolated, okay? So that condition existed with me for 10 years, from when I was 17 until I was 27. And I went to Michigan during that time, participated in things like Relay for Life, and I'll tell you, being so isolated, having an opportunity to connect around an event and be supported and have that community was so incredibly valuable for me. So the reason I do what I do is because of that. When I healed from that condition, my background is, like, you can look at my career path from 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. I did so many jobs. And, I can tell you more details. But at the heart of it, what I was getting at is I want to help people who have limitations on themselves move past those limitations and get to the next level. Because for 10 years, I couldn't do it. I couldn't create friendships. I couldn't create impact. I didn't know how to earn money. I didn't know how to connect to that next level. And by the way, therapy was incredibly important. Coaching was incredibly important for me. Attending events like this, everything that we talk about today, I'm going to show you how to tell a bigger story. Okay, so the reason I tell you my why is, I would say 95% of the time, when I speak to organizations like this, where you have high performers in the room, and they're in organizations like this, they're driven by a why that's bigger than making money. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Now that's unusual because probably all of you all high performers could go into more corporate jobs or into more segments of earning where you're actually making a lot of money but not connected to a purpose. Would you agree that that could be a potential? Okay, so the most important thing for you all here is to own your why. And that's gonna be really important. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you connected to American Cancer Society? Why are you committed to taking a goal at $300,000 and hitting 520, right? How did that happen? How do you get so committed that not only do you have that commitment, but you transfer that to your volunteers? Let me tell you how powerful that is. It's unbelievably powerful, okay? So we're gonna identify why you're excellent and what I can do to just help you brand that in an even more significant way so you can get even better results next year. Okay, are you all down with it? Okay, now Mark, our sound guy, is also like our DJ, and at some point we're going to raise the roof and we're gonna get really loud, okay? And I love that we're all wearing football jerseys because we can use that as a metaphor. Like, what do you do when your team gets to the Super Bowl? How many of you all are wearing jerseys of teams that have gotten to the Super Bowl? Woo! Okay. I see the Chiefs in the back. Okay. All right. How many of you all have been incredible fans? And you haven't quite gotten there, but you've been incredible hardcore fans. All right, I see. I love it. Okay, great. All right, whatever that energy is, we're gonna bring it in just a bit, and I'm gonna get us to raise the roof. Okay, so our agenda today is we're gonna focus on your most inspiring state, and we're gonna learn how to turn up the volume on it, and how to be the driver of that inspiration. I'm gonna show you how to build your brand and what brand actually means. And then we're gonna talk about your sales funnel and how to network like a champion. And for you all, I bet if you have those meetings with people, if you have the networking meeting, you're most likely going to close them in some capacity. They're gonna want to affiliate with you if they have the money or the time. Is that right? Is that right? Okay, but the problem is you need to get more of the key meetings and more of the key asks. Is that right? Okay, I'm gonna show you how to do that, and we're gonna pour some Miracle-Gro on your current strategies, and I'm gonna give you more. Okay, so everyone has a pen, and so I'm gonna ask you to start to fill in things as we go, but you can go ahead and put your pen down for a second. So how many of you all know the term peak performance state? Have you ever heard that? All right, so think about, we're gonna use the athlete metaphor here. Think about if you were on a team, and remember, these athletes have to bring their A game. And by the way, a lot of it is mental, right? If you know your contract is expiring, or some young new player comes on that has half the amount of your talent, and they negotiated a much higher contract, and you're sitting here going, I'm getting paid less, but I'm more valuable to the team, and my contract isn't up for renewal for 4 more years or 2 more years, is that gonna upset you? Could that affect your mental, could that affect how you show up in the game? Yes, 100%, by the way. So a lot of our state is being able to control 3 things. What we're focusing on, that's our end goal, our physiology, how we sit, how we stand, and I'm gonna be watching you guys. Because sometimes people sit in my seminars and they're like this. And by the way, that's gonna transfer to the people who you talk to. And then other times people are sitting on the edge of their seat and they're like ready to go, right? And I promise you, for the next 90 minutes, I'm going to bring you my A game, and we're gonna use some mirror neurons, and I'm gonna get you to bring yours. And by the way, this stuff feels good, okay? How often, as an adult, everyone here is over 18, how often as an adult do you experience like unbridled joy where your hands are up in the air and you're so excited? How many times did that happen in 2024? Just hold up a number if you had to think. How many times did that happen? 2 times. I think one was the Taylor Swift concert back there. 10 times, 7 times, 4 times, 10 times, 3 times, 3. Yolanda says 3 times. How many? 1 time. 10. Los Angeles says 10 times. Okay, 10 times. All right, how many times do you think this happens for children? All the time, right? Every day. They gotta like put that ketchup back in the ketchup bottle, right? Okay, but kids are allowed to do it. They don't have the self-consciousness, right? They feel good. They know what they want. They know what great physiology feels like. And by the way, the story means the beliefs and things that the rules that we have. Oh, I can't be this loud. I can't ask for this. I can't go up and talk to this person I do not know. Right? That's the old story, right? And we learn those stories. We learn how we should behave through experiences, through years of training, through regulating to other people around us, right? Okay, so when we create our best state, we need to know what we're focusing on. We need to get our physiology in a magnetic place, right? And then we need to have some internal dialogue, some story that says something like, what would be an appropriate thing? What would your internal dialogue say, your story, if you were gonna have an internal cheerleader that was gonna say, you're gonna go get it? What might your internal story say? Can we say those words in here? You're a badass. Okay. I was just, yeah, you're a badass, right? What was that? Get it, girl. Get it, girl. Right? Go get it. You're awesome. Maybe it's you're handsome, whatever that is, right? You can do this. You're going to hit your goal. But if your internal story, we got to pay attention and listen to what that internal auditory is saying to us. I shouldn't really talk to that person, or that person doesn't like me, or that person snubbed me, or this person is too wealthy for me to approach. Whatever that stuff is, I guarantee you're going to have your foot on the brake and the gas at the same time, right? So you're going to be going and you're going to be holding yourself back. So I'm going to ask everyone to stand up. Okay, not yet, Mark. No, everyone stand up, but I'm talking to Mark over there because Mark has got the music. All right, but before we do music, all right, stretch it out. Stretch it out, and I want you to get your energy in your fingertips. Move around. All right, spread it out. Okay, y'all are great. This is like my best audience ever because I'll tell you, when I do this with a lot of, well, there's dudes in the room. We got a lot of great dudes in the room. When I do this with a lot of people, they're like, right? Okay, all right, so we're gonna stand up. Now, on the count of 3, I'm gonna ask you to manufacture a state, but I'm gonna ask you to be like a 7-year-old, and I want you to absolutely emphasize it as much as you can, okay? Right? But I'm not gonna tell you that until a second. So I want you to play full out. And I want you to, my friend with the stars right here, beautiful stars. Wait, no, I'm not calling you out. Oh, don't worry, I'm not gonna call you out. Although now I want to. No, but she has a beautiful smile. So I want you to also think about your face, okay? When I tell you to manufacture a state, I want you to think about your face. And by the way, if you're in the front row, you're the leaders, okay? You're the leaders. All right, on the count of 3. And you're gonna 1,000% exaggerate it. And if people were to look at you in the room, they need to mirror you and actually become stronger in this state. You're going to affect the people around you, okay? Are you ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Your state is depression. I hear some smiling. You need to get more depressed. Excellent. So no smiles over there. All right. Now, this is really important. Laughter's over there. Let's get depressed. A little more depressed. You're too happy. More depressed. There you go. All right. All right. Now, I want you to feel the weight of your body. I want you to think about, if we were going to use the formula of focus, what are you thinking about that manufactures this? Okay, now just feel your physiology. How are you standing? Where's your power? Are you more or less likely to take action from this state? Less. Okay. All right, great. All right, good job. Just feel it in your body. Feel what depression and look around the room. We got kind of like an international look of depression. All right? Okay, now I'm going to ask you to, on the count of 3, manufacture a different state. Notice even how I get quieter when I'm replicating depression. On the count of 3, we're going to replicate 1, 2, 3. Hope. Hope. Now feel hope in your body. Feel hope in your legs. I want you to think hope, like actually feel when you're hopeful. What does that feel like? Now let me ask you, is it light or is it really heavy on your feet? Light. Are your shoulders light and loose, or are they heavy and strong? Light and loose. Oh, I got the hands up in the air. I love it. All right. Are your muscles tight or are they relaxed? Relaxed. Okay. Beautiful. All right. Are you talking fast or are you talking kind of slow and light? Slow and light. All right. Now, on the count of 3, how many of you have children? How many of you know children? Okay. Okay. All right. So whether it's a niece or a nephew or a cousin or a whatever, or your own child, on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to manufacture, stay in hope, feel the hope in your physiology. I'm going to ask you to manufacture a different state, which should feel a little bit different in your body, okay? Great job, great job. 1, 2, 3, anger. Now I want it to be, there you go. I want it to be so strong. Listen up, guys. Listen up. We need anger. Anger is actually really powerful. Great job. Although you're smiling a little. Okay, no smiles. Now we're gonna amplify anger. I want you to think about one of your children or a child you know. There we go. I see it. And basically, someone says something to insult them and it's coming out. Okay, now I want you to feel your body. Are your legs strong or are they relaxed? Strong. Strong and, there you go, strong and stiff like an anchor. All right, are your muscles tight or are they relaxed and loose? Tight. Okay, now amplify it a little bit more and think about a focus. All right, look at your face. Is it laughing? How are your eyes? Are they tense or are they relaxed? Squinty and focused. Okay, great. All right, real quickly, I'm gonna ask you to switch back to 1, 2, 3, hope. Got it? Okay, now I'm gonna ask you to manufacture a different state altogether. This is the state of, I'm gonna describe it a little bit. This is your peak performance state. So this is the state when you want something, you're going to get it, you're gonna fight for it, you're gonna be nimble and resourceful. Okay, ready? When I meet you and you're a potential donor and I know that I want what you have on my team or that I wanna do an event with your organization, I'm going to win, okay? Now I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3 peak performance state and we're gonna go and I wanna see the best version of yourself in the room where you know you're gonna win every time. I wanna see like you're so confident you're gonna win. Okay, 1, 2, 3, peak performance state. All right. Okay, now, everyone, okay, woo! We heard that? All right, now I want you to celebrate. Now, everyone here is celebrating wins. You couldn't have gotten in this room unless you had a big win. Is that correct? Okay, so using your 7-year-old unbridled joy and power, we're about to turn up the music, and I want everyone to cheer. I'm seeing looks like, oh God, she's gonna make me do this. But let me tell you this. I bet when you held your fingers up and you said 3 times, 2 times, 4 times in the past year, I let myself do this, we don't actually have avenues appropriate for adults to do this, right? We don't sit there and like high five everyone and congratulate them. This is something we need to do in our nervous system. And by the way, if people know that you can create that feeling in yourself and in them, they're gonna want to be close to you, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cheer. We're gonna cheer for about 30 seconds. And we're gonna raise our voice. We're gonna get really excited. The music is going to be very, very loud, right? And then we're gonna turn to our partner and give them a high five. And you can say something because we're all adults. You can say, you're a badass, right? And you can say, you're a badass too. Is that okay? All right, here we go, okay? We're gonna cheer, and I'm gonna be right there with you in my pumps cheering, okay? All right, here we go. And we're gonna get that music raising the roof, Mark. Mark is from Miami. He knows how to have music. All right, Mark, here we go. 1, 2, 3, go! Woo! Woo! Make it bigger, baby! Woo! High five your partner! High five! High five your partner! Woo! You're a badass! You're a badass! Woo! You're a badass! All right. High five your partner! Woo! Woo! All right. Woo! Yes! Great job. How do you all feel? How do you feel? All right, before you sit down, we're gonna do that one more time. By the way, that was excellent. Sometimes when people are in the back, they can be a little self-conscious, but I promise I'm doing this in the front. This time, we're gonna raise the roof even more, and we're gonna turn to some that when we didn't say hello to, and we're gonna go ahead and high five them and say, you're a badass. We're gonna do this for about 30 more seconds. How y'all doing? You okay? You got it? All right, here we go. 1. Even bigger, y'all. 2. This is my best audience yet. 3, go! Woo! Woo! Awesome! Woo! Good job! What's your shirt? Woo! All right. Woo! Okay. Woo! All right. We can have a seat. Woo! Woo! Thank you. Okay. Burn in some calories. This is the best audience I have ever worked with. Ever. Y'all are awesome. Thank you. Woo! I'm telling you, 2025 for this group of people is going to be amazing. All right? Okay, so here we go. Woo! So you're gonna have to write a little bit feverishly because we got a lot of stuff to do. And at the end of today, at the end of my 90 minutes, we're gonna get up and do that again. I'm telling you, this is so helpful for your nervous system. How many of you guys are going, oh my gosh, this is really tough? That's hard to do. It's hard to generate that much excitement. Some of you all are doing it. Okay, is it overwhelming for some people? No? Okay, if it is, that's okay. Some people really don't like that type of thing. If you don't like that, it's okay. What you can do is maybe not dance around, but turn up the volume in your head. Okay? So you don't have to do it if it makes you super uncomfortable. But if it makes you uncomfortable, but you actually are like, I kind of want to do that, go for it. I promise, because it's going to train your nervous system to take risks. Remember, I told you the person who tolerates the most discomfort generates the most money. Across the board. You got to be willing to tolerate things outside of your comfort zone. Okay, so on that first page, we have opportunities are everywhere on your handout. Well, we're first going to talk about brand. So first, tell me, what is brand? What is it? What was that? What people can expect from you. Anyone else? Your values. Ooh, your identity. I love all of that. So your brand, the definition that we have here is your brand is the emotional and psychological connection you build with others. Now, by the way, is brand a defined thing? Or is it like I know it when I see it? What? It's an evolving, it's a changing, it's a subjective thing. If I say this person has a strong brand or an interesting brand, it could be a lot of different things, right? It's kind of like the way I feel when I interact with this product or service or person. But what it really is the pairing of two things to create an outcome, right? That's it. The pairing of two things. When Michael Jackson drank Pepsi in the commercials, we were pairing Pepsi, which is just a drink, with the magic maybe you feel when you listen to a Michael Jackson song, right? So people brand all the time. One of our local law firms brands with the Saints. They are the Saints law firm. So when you see the Saints, when you see this law firm on the ad of the Saints, you might pair the two together, right? So that's what branding is. So today we're going to talk about how you are branding yourself. And there are lots of different ways that you do it. But first, the number one way that you brand yourself is the energy you bring to the table. And I'm going to ask everyone, if you have your phones, to put them away, to use your phones later. We're going to be out of here very quickly, but to kind of be 100% committed, because by the way, you're going to influence the person next to you to pick up your phone. How many of you all, if you see someone on your phone, are you like, oh, I should see what's, it's so exciting, right? So do it for your team. Put your phones away, please. Okay, so the first thing is your peak performance state. I want you to describe when your version of your peak performance state in that piece at the top on page 1 of my handout. So describe that most inspiring state. What did it feel like? Write something down in that bubble. What did it feel like to be in your peak performance state? Just write something. Do you have a handout? You don't have one?
I'm just volunteering.
You're a volunteer. Okay. Okay, just write something down. What does it feel like to be in your peak performance state? Did it feel great? Were you moving around? Were you breathing differently? Describe your peak performance. Were you standing up tall? I know we were cheering, but if you were to take that and kind of bottle it in, I'll tell you, my peak performance state looks like this, my physiology. I want you to watch me. I want you to tell me when I go out of peak performance state. So watch my physiology. I'm going to give you peak performance state, and I want you to tell me when I go out of it. Okay, here we go. Here's my peak performance. Watch me go out of it and tell me when. Yeah. And I'll tell you the number one thing for me is sternum, right? When I'm in peak performance, it's up, and it's about a 2 millimeter shift when I'm out of it. When I shift, there's self-doubt that comes in. I might be thinking like, I just offended someone, or I shouldn't have said that, all kinds of self-doubt. When I am in peak performance state, there's confidence, certainty, and power that comes from this place, okay? So I want you to define it. I want you to write down, what am I focusing on when I'm in peak performance state? What am I thinking of? Now think of an outcome relevant to what you do, whether it's strides, Relay for Life, Men Wear Pink, the determination events. Woo! Okay, think about what am I focusing on when I'm in peak performance state? Is it this person would be a good fit? Why, of course this person wants to pair with our organization. Think about what you're focusing on. Now describe your physiology. If you were to walk into a room with your winning physiology, what would that be for you? Right? I work with this guy who's very tall. He's 6'4", and when I first met him, he walked like this, because it was so uncomfortable that he was intimidating people. And I thought, oh my gosh, you walk into the room like this, you own the room. There's other ways where you can make people feel safe, but don't make yourself small, okay? So what does your physiology look like when you're owning your confidence? What does your body feel like? By the way, if everyone can go ahead and sit in peak performance state real quickly right now, just feel it, remind yourself. Now, I want it to be so strong that if I looked at you, I said, I'm not messing with that person. That person's the most powerful person in this room. I want you to get peak performance state. If someone's like this, watch your physiology. I want you to get in peak performance. Everyone see it? Any more tweaks? Okay, make it a little bit bigger. Awesome. Great. Okay. Now, internal dialogue. So we all have stories that can either propel us forward or hold us back. What's a story you could tell internally that would propel you forward? So that's like an internal belief. I'm great at what I do. I'm on the most successful team. We overshot our goal. Our track record is we grow by 20% each year. I'm in the best place I've been in my life. People are magnetically attracted to me, right? Now, by the way, at any given point, I could pick 60 other stories that are negative. How many of us could do that? I'm not where I want to be. Maybe I could be in a different right? So it takes focus and intention to pick a story that's going to propel you forward, right? Because there's so much junk out there, and you put on social media and there's so much comparison, but pick a story that's gonna propel you. All right? Okay, what is a story that you could write that would drive you to show up as your best and have an ask? So one of my clients says, I'll tell you, he comes from a technology background and he opened a company where he had to lead sales. And this was a guy who was bullied when he was younger. And so he would walk into these rooms and immediately he would have the brake on and he would say, they're not gonna like me. And I said, we gotta shift that story. They are going to love you because you're going to provide the best security for their website. So what is the story you could tell that would absolutely propel you to take a big action? It's almost like you gotta listen to what the cheering squad is. And by the way, everyone has an internal auditory that's saying stuff to them. But sometimes it's so quick, it's so fast, you don't realize that there's an abusive voice in the back of your head. And by the way, let me tell you, I told you my why, I told you my story. For years after that, I'm 41, I healed from this when I was 27 and it happened in a moment. It went away, my voice went away in a moment when I was 17 and it came back in a moment when I was 27, right? That's how that paralysis stuff works with the dissociation. So I'll tell you, I dealt with for years the issue of people don't see me, I'm invisible, because that's how I was for 10 years. So let me tell you, it felt uncomfortable when I had to speak up and make big waves. Because that's what you gotta do in sales, and we are all in sales, right? You have to allow yourself to be rejected. All right, my friends, how are y'all doing? Good, woo! Okay, so everyone got something on your peak performance? Okay, so the power of branding yourself, the power of telling a bigger story is it helps you get what you want. Does that make sense? Okay, now how many of you all think you could tell a bigger story about who you are than you're currently telling? I saw some people shaking their heads, but I promise you, I got your energy up to an 11 on a scale of 10 here today. And by the way, that's telling a bigger story, okay? So I promise you there's room to move. When I work with athletes, I know when they're performing where they are. And a lot of what we see when we see people performing, I can watch it. I can see when they're at a 6. Now, we might think, oh, this person is doing so well, but I know when they're not at their peak performance. I know when those thoughts, when their doubts get in their head. Watch you can see it in football. You can see it on TV. You can watch someone drop out of peak performance. You can watch someone doubt themselves. You can see it, and then you can see their activity, right? Okay, so when we tell a bigger story, when we learn how to brand ourselves, it can absolutely help you get everything you want and what your organization wants. Okay, so we're gonna look at 13 elements. And when we talk about brand, remember we're talking about how you're pairing yourself with something else and how you're creating perceptions in other people. So ideally, this gives you some tools to say, oh wow, I did not even realize that I walk into a room and people maybe think I'm off-putting, or they don't realize that I am actually really personable. Or, maybe they think I'm intimidating, or they think I'm not really interested, okay? So lots of different things that we can be doing to shift ourselves. Okay, so the first one, got our slides there, I'm just taking peeks, is executive presence. So what is executive presence? And that goes into that peak performance state. What is executive presence? What is it? Tell me. Confidence, how people feel you dominate the room when you walk in the room. Right? Now, oftentimes I work with people at law firms on how to shift their executive presence. How can I help someone who might walk in the room and they think, gosh, I always get passed over, or people don't listen to me. And sometimes I can look at them and say, oh, we got to shift your executive presence. We got to shift where you sit in the room, right? Okay, so it's the appearance of confidence. It's empowered body language, right? Okay, so here are a few things. Now you have at the back of the handout, I gave you resources on many different ways that you can improve each of these areas, okay? So on your handout, so I'm just gonna go through them, but on your handout, I'm gonna ask you how, for each one of these, how you can improve your brand in this area. So the first one is with executive presence, model success. So how many of you all know someone, I'm gonna stand on this side for now. How many of you all know someone who when they walk in the room, there's just people listen. They hold their own, okay? Everyone knows someone like that. So the first thing is all of this, success leaves clues. All of it has that physiology, what they're thinking about, what their internal beliefs are, what their focus is. And if you can replicate that, you can get that same outcome. Okay, so when you see someone who has what you want and you want to study other people, that's why this room is phenomenal. You're studying the top people in your organization, the most successful people, right? And you have proximity to them. And you want to look and we don't want to waste this opportunity. You want to connect with them. Why are they successful? How did they do it? What about their personality had them bring in more volunteers, okay? So model success. You want to audit your body language. So just be aware of what does my body language make me think? I'm going to show you this one. What do you think this makes people think about you? What was that? Bored. Oh, that you're bored. Is it that you're boring? No, that you're bored. Okay, how many of you all are doing some version of this right now? It looks like you're listening. You might be listening, but the perception from others might be what? You're bored, right? You're falling asleep. It might also be that you doubt yourself. If you make yourself small, right? So little things like that. So audit, just think about, how am I sitting? Am I square looking at someone? Am I making myself small? What am I doing with my hands? So start to think about that, because executive presence generally looks like you got your hands out, you're making contact, you're showing your palms. That's a way to create safety for someone else. Remember, it's not really about you, it's about how other people perceive you, right? And some of us might need to actually take up more real estate. Where do you sit in the meetings that you attend? Do you sit in the corner? Or do you sit in the center? Do you put your arms out? Do you take notes? Do you sit up tall? Right? That exudes executive presence. And there's so much of a portion of your body language that goes into this that's much bigger than what you actually say, right? So your presence. And just pay attention to who has strong executive presence and you can model it. Okay, next one is speaking skills, dress with intention. How many of you all know the power of dressing for the audience that you want? What does that mean when you dress with intention? What are some things that you could do to shift to get the outcome you want? Go ahead.
I call it wearing hats, and depending on who I'm meeting with and what they generally wear, like usually in my research, I will kind of mirror what they do. For example, we have a very flashy woman who's volunteered. I tried to wear extra jewelry when I met with her, things which sounds cheesy, but that's her thing, and I wanted to replicate how she was feeling, her interest.
Why?
Because it connects us.
It connects us. It creates rapport.
In a way that I'm not normally that person, and I wanted her to trust me, which sounds crazy. It sounds almost like you're manipulating, but you're doing it in a way that actually is genuine, if that makes sense.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. So it's dress for connection, right? I mean, if I showed up wearing a New Orleans Saints jersey, it would be absolutely great for this meeting, right? And wearing a dress, I was like, am I going to break rapport with this group? And I thought, no, I'm just going to dress how I would usually dress as a speaker, but that's okay, right? But going into a meeting, you want to think about, could this elevate me? Now, here's another thing you can use. Executive presence. I'll tell you, that person who had that dissociative disorder, I worked as all kinds of things. I worked at a hot dog place, I worked at Starbucks, I worked at all of these jobs. When I started doing this type of work, I didn't have money to buy a blazer. Someone gave me a blazer, right? Wearing the blazer shifted how I saw myself in the room. So that's important too. So it's not just about creating trust with them, it's about feeling like you can have that conversation. Right? And by the way, there's all kinds of organizations that you can connect with that'll help you get those free blazers. Dress for Success is a great one. I donate to them now. Okay, another one is power poses. I want everyone to put their hands on their hips like this. You can do this in your chair, but I want you to really feel it. Squeeze your waist. All right, does anyone know about the psychology, the science that has to do with the power poses? Anyone know about this? Yep. Okay, great. So we got a taker here. All right, so the power poses science is if I can do this for a minute, right? Breathe into my nervous system like this. And sometimes I used to do this all the time before I speak because I was terrified of getting on stage Because remember, I couldn't speak for 10 years. It was so difficult to talk, right? I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna stutter, I'm gonna be terrible. The science of the power pose is if I can stand like this for 1 minute, it increases my testosterone, which is my ability to take risk, and lowers my cortisol, my stress levels, right? So I'm more able to take action and not be overwhelmed, right? So standing like this for a minute is not about communicating that you're confident to someone else. It's about communicating to yourself that you're confident enough to have the meeting. Okay? So you want to give yourself every advantage you can have. So that's going to help you with your executive presence. So I want you to write down something you could do to improve your executive presence. What do you need to do? From all of these things, build speaking skills is another one. There are all kinds of ways you can do that. I'm also happy to talk to your organization about that. But how do you build your speaking skills so you can be more effective? Okay? All right, we're going to keep going. Does everyone have something they can do? And you have a whole bank of resources for each one of these suggestions on how to improve them. We're going to keep going. Does everyone have something they could do to improve their executive presence? Okay. All right, good. We need to keep going. Okay, the next one is communication. Communication is huge. So, communication at all of your meetings. You want to have agendas, right? I love meetings that are strong and we know what's going to happen. We know what the outcome is. Okay, does everyone know, this is similar to what our friend in the blue shirt said about matching someone's outfits. Communication style, if you know someone's communication style, does anyone have any training on that? Okay, a little bit of training. All right, so I'm just gonna give you the quick and dirty of it. So I've created a training to help identify when you walk into the room, diagnose someone's communication style, diagnose their personality style. So basic, we got 4. We got the visionary, the person who sees big concepts. They're gonna wanna know, oh, if we do Relay for Life, this is going to build our brand, this is going to help with our philanthropy efforts, this is going to shift our value in the community, we're gonna be able to give back in a big way, right? The next one is that informational. These are the people who want the data, who want to know all of the information, right? So these are the informational drivers. The third one is the strategic drivers. They want to know that if they're going to do this, they have the checklist. They know that you're going to be organized. We know we're going to get it done. And the fourth one is the communal drivers. These people are going to want to connect with you and make sure this is a wonderful, socially valuable organization. So I'm just saying that in the way of if you can connect with someone's communication style, you can be very effective with them. All right, gestures. You want to know if someone's interested or if someone's bored. How many of you have had to endure a meeting and you're like trying to seem interested, but you're bored? Okay, so you want to read the gestures, you want to understand them. Refining expressions. Okay, how many of you all know about RBF? All right, it stands for resting bothered face, right? Okay, so really take a look, take an inventory in the mirror of how you think you're perceived. Because oftentimes we think we're open-minded and listening, and our face may look like this. I'll tell you mine, this is actually really interesting. A lot of times people think I'm looking at them and staring at them, and I'm not even paying attention. Because I can lock in and not blink my eyes, right? And they're like, oh God, she's glazed over, right? So I didn't realize that like a resting bored face, I can have that. And so I have to actively move my eyes. I have to stop making eye contact, shake my head, right? Because I'll just go into for 3 minutes staring, right? Not good, not good. And I didn't know that, but we have to take an audit. How are we being perceived? And so look in the mirror, start to think. And sometimes I have a friend whose eyes go down. He has, his eyes are a little bit slanted, and it looks sometimes like he's sad. And the truth is he's the happiest guy in the world, but he has to communicate that to you after the first perception. Okay, so you want to just take an audit, and there's all kind of classes to learn what your expressions are, but that's something to think about in your communication. It's your clothing, it's your gestures, it's your communication style, it's how fast and slow you speak, right? It's how you sit. Here's another one. Quickly, you want to deliver warmth and competence. So competence means I know what I'm doing. I know how to run this meeting. I know how to get us results. And warmth, I'm likable. I connect with you. I can create rapport. So you want to be able to do that quickly. And of course, you want to be able to share your outcomes. Okay, so write down one area that you can improve in communication. You've got the bank in the back. Is that helpful? So this is branding. These are all ways you tell the story of what you do. Okay, so what is one thing you could do to improve in that area? Here is quite possibly the most important one. Share your why. Okay, how many of you all know and can clearly state your why? Well, I'll tell you, it's rarely the case, okay? Because a why should be simple. It should be down to a sentence. I work with Goodwill. I'm sure you've heard of that organization. Have you all heard of Goodwill Industries? Yeah. So the local one, we have 34 local retail stores in this organization. And when I asked them their why, they gave me 3 paragraphs. Whew, that's a lot. All right, my friend over here with the brown hair, we've got 3 next to each other. We got a whole table of brunettes. But my friend over here raised her hand very high when we said the why. Would you be brave enough to share your why?
I'm here because I have been a Relay to Life participant since I was a kid and honor my grandparents, and that is truly why I do what I do. And I think of them every day.
Okay, that's beautiful. Can we go a little bit deeper?
Now crying.
Wait, whoa, no. Okay. But what about connecting with Relay for Life helps you remember them or honor them or helps you have impact and carry their legacy?
To be able to see other families that are going through a similar thing, just to give them that little bit of hope, whether they have people that passed or not, just to be able to pay it forward.
Yes. So my why is to bring this hope to families in need. And that is what I carry. That's what I brought from my grandparents. That's why I do what I do. I carry the hope to other families in need. That's what we do. Now, by the way, what's your name? Gina. If Gina can articulate that, because what Gina's got to do is not only articulate that, but down the road on the branding, she's got to empower other people to connect with that why. Okay, which is really cool. Who else has a why? So I'm going to come to my friend here in the back, but real quickly for Gina, right? Gina gets to, everyone else probably has grandparents or other people who have been affected by this, by cancer, right? And Gina gets to then show them that they can bring hope to others through affiliating with their Relife for Life program. Okay, my friend here in the back. My life experience has taught me that every life matters, and if it matters, what does that drive you to do? If every life matters, what's the deeper why? That everyone should make a difference, or that I can make a difference, I can impact everyone's life. Is that right? Through what? Through engagement. And what team are you on? We're on Strides. Okay. And do you have a story in your history that has, you don't have to tell me, but like a why that has propelled you to this mission? Yes. Okay. And that story has driven you, did you come from a place of feeling like every life didn't matter or that your life didn't matter?
I came from a place of watching people lose their lives or didn't have someone in their life.
Amazing. Okay, so that's very specific. Having come from a place of watching people lose their life, I am empowered to show people that everyone should have a support, that every life matters. And I do this, I'm committed to this, to showing that every life matters and that everyone is valuable. Is that right? Okay, so that is huge. Now, it's hard to get that down to the essence, but if you can do that, and by the way, I can help you with your own, if you can do that, you can transfer that narrative. So I want you to try and write down your why. And by the way, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 passes. Does everyone have something written for their why? Write it down. You can write down bullets. Anyone else have one? So my why, I mean, I told you the story, but the essence of my why is to help people tell a big story, because the truth is, even though I had that kind of mental illness thing that was affected by this huge addiction thing that was going on in my family, the bigger why later on was for 10 years, I had to deal with this old story of I can't connect with people. So my why is to help people move through limitations so they can have everything that they want, so they can achieve what they want, because so much of it is BS. So much of it is old story that they're living out. So much of it is someone else's story for them. Okay, does everyone have bullets for their why? We can workshop it after, but I want to make sure you have something there. Okay, now, in your why, once you have your why, your job in this meeting is to communicate your why. And I know it sometimes takes vulnerability, but you want to share not just what the American Cancer Society does or what your particular area or what your particular focus does, but you want to communicate your why it's important to you. Right? By the way, that story that I told you, it took me years to be able to share that. It used to be so uncomfortable. And now it's something where, like, when I share it, it's actually empowering because other people can relate. Okay, so you want to communicate it often, and you want to recruit others to your why. Because a lot of people have a similar why, but they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing, right? And when we heard Gina share hers, I guarantee you other people will say, oh my gosh, it affected my aunt. And I've been wanting to bring a hope, to bring light to other people. All right, the ability to create connections. Okay, this is huge. So, okay, at networking events, and we're going to talk about how to get in the room for networking events. You want to be able to obviously be positive. You want to work the room. How many of you all have met, how many people do we have here? 111, 111, I love it. All right, so 111 people. How many of you all have met at least 50 new people since you've been here? 50, that's like 48%. Okay, probably about 5% of the room. Okay, so you want to make it your goal to greet everyone, to connect with everyone, to have some sort of transfer, because this is your network, right? These are your connections. We're going to talk about how to actively build your network, like what to do this, but you want to actively engage with people you don't know. That's the power of being in a room like this. So many resources here. There's millions of dollars of resources here for you, I promise. And by the way, not just for your American Cancer Society focus, but other things, right? We get so much from our network. Work the room, right? Know how to work the room. I'll tell you, one of the biggest tools I learned in doing this was find the people who are uncomfortable, the people who are on the perimeter, the people who aren't talking to people. Those are the people to have conversations with. Okay, I want to ask you guys this question, and I got to speed it up. Think about high school. When you think about the most popular people in high school, I want you to go through the Rolodex and think, what were the common denominators? Why were they popular? Okay. Think about it. This study came out, and I promise it's going to change you, and it can change your popularity. All right, so what was it? My friend in the back with the lanyard. What was, that's you, yep. What were the common denominators between those popular kids?
So we stood out.
Yes, did you hear that? Did you hear this comment back there? So our friend here said that there was like a team. They had like a group or community, and kind of like to the athletics or something about them, a talent. They had a group. Go ahead. They have money. That's a great answer. And that's often what the perception is. Someone said mean girls, right? Because oftentimes are the most popular people the nicest? No? Okay, but wait till you hear the answer. Okay.
They talk to a lot of people.
Woo! What's my friend's name over here?
Alyssa.
Alyssa got the closest. Okay, so the number one across the board reason for people being popular is when asked to write down the list of people they liked, they had the longest list. They liked the most people. Now, they might have liked people in their team. They might have liked jerks, right? They might have liked just people on the football team, but they liked the most people. So here's the thing. When you're building your connections, and by the way, I test this all the time, you want to walk into the room being like, I am going to spontaneously generate warmth with every single person in this room. I am going to like you. I'm going to like the most people. And by the way, I don't care if you don't like me back. I'm going to like you. Because chances are, quantity, I'm going to have the most connections. Okay? So that's the thing. Your list needs to be long. And by the way, I did this at this Christmas party. I am the president of this networking group, and I heard this study, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the Christmas party, and I'm gonna talk to this guy's wife and this guy's wife. I don't even know them, but I'm gonna make them feel the most valued person in the room. And by the way, I could feel it coming back to me tenfold. So when you go to the party, generate excitement to see people, especially people that are, maybe not the most popular. Right? Okay, does that make sense? Does that potentially make sense to my friend in the back with the talent? Yeah, I love it. Okay, let's keep going. Now that's a great tool to remember when you're going into some of the organizations. How can you make everyone feel like you're excited to see them? By the way, we do it with our facial expressions. We do it we could do oh, you like blue? I like blue. We're both wearing blue, right? You can do all kinds of ways of creating rapport, right? You're from Minnesota? I love Minnesota. I know how to spell Minnesota, but you can create it. Okay. All right, here's the next one. This is important. Trustworthiness and authenticity. I'm going to go right to the bottom. Alignment and congruence. What does that mean? Yeah, that's a good one. Find something in common. But if I say someone is congruent, what does that mean? We're on the same page. Symmetry. If someone behaves congruently, what was that? Marrying the person. So all of these kind of answers are correct, but what I'm trying to get at is when someone is congruent, what they say and what they do matches. Okay? So how many of you all have had experiences where you see someone on social media and then you meet them in person and you're like, what? Right? That doesn't match up. Or maybe what they say and promise to do doesn't match up with what they do. Okay? So you want to make sure when we're talking brand, you align with the vision you're creating, right? But you're aligning with it. Right? You want to make sure that's happening because, by the way, we have so many instincts. And when you're asking for money or for someone to join an organization, you want to absolutely make sure that you align, that you're congruent. And people get that sense in an instant. And by the way, if you're someone who had trauma like me, I get it in a really quick instant. My antennas are up, right? So you want to make sure that you act in alignment. Okay. Also, eye contact. Eye contact is important 60% of the time, right? If I look at you, and how many of you all have had a conversation with someone and they're just like this all the time? It's uncomfortable. So actually, only 60% of the time you want eye contact. You want to make them feel connected, and then you want to make them feel safe, okay? All right, share experiences, of course. Meeting in person is important. Connecting in person. We went to kind of Zoom over COVID. We want to be meeting in person, connecting in person. Here's the interesting thing. Talking with your hands is actually important for creating trustworthiness, including on Zoom. If I show you my palms on Zoom, you're more likely to trust me. It's all kinds of studies. Okay, so you want to use your hands. It basically shows people that you're open, okay? So if you're talking to someone and you're like this, or you don't open your hands, it actually makes people feel like you're closed off. So this is a great way to create trust, okay? All right. Okay, here's an interesting one. Now this requires a little bit more study, but it's really valuable. Is everyone writing notes? I know you've got your bank. Okay. Make sure you have a note for this one, trustworthiness. How can you improve that area? Really important. Okay, the ability to influence. This is interesting. So think about when you go to a party or when you go to an event and you know someone where they tell these stories and people just listen to them. Stop and listen to their stories. Do you have friends like this who can command attention? Okay, there is a formula for this, and I'm going to give you the quick version of this formula. You want to use hooks. Just like a billboard, you want to use a hook. So I'm going to tell you a very quick story. In September, I brought a group of people, a group of professionals, on a business retreat to Greece. And I did it by myself. There were 9 of us. And everything went smoothly until we almost didn't, like everything almost fell apart. Okay? And I'll tell you what happened was we were going from Athens to Naxos, Greece. And I didn't have my team member is pregnant and she wasn't able to come. So I was doing this on my own. Meanwhile, it's 8 in the morning in Greece. And it is midnight in New Orleans, so she's not available. We get in the car, me, with all of my team, all of the clients who were going. We're driving, and I'm sitting here going, this is taking a long time to get to the port because we're taking a big ferry. So after about 20 minutes, I go, excuse me, how much longer is it going to take to the port? And he goes, the port? I thought we were going to the airport. So I had paid for everyone's ferry ride to get to Naxos, Greece. Meanwhile, we had a big event when we got to Naxos, and he's driving to the airport, and we don't have enough time to go back. So let me tell you, I was so stressed out. I'm looking to find flights. There's no flights. They're sold out. Anyway, turns out we did get a flight, but huge issue. So I want to tell you, when I told you this story, I used a hook. Right? I said everything went well until everything fell apart. I could have told you a linear story about the experience of the retreat in Greece, everything we did, and then this happened and this happened. You want to lead with your hook, you want to create an emotional connection in your story, and you want to transform your listener through your story. Now, I have lots of different tools on how to do that. But when you're sharing your story about your impact with your grandparents or someone else in your life that has caused you to connect with this organization, you want to share in an impactful way. So you want to start with hooks. Does that make sense, a hook? You want to and you can use hooks several times when you speak, right? You want to lead with something that's going to grab their attention, and then you want to create some emotional connection. The way also we create emotional connection is put it in first person. What's my friend's name with the stars? Erin. All right, if I'm telling Erin a story, I'm telling her about that Greece story, I might say to Erin, imagine we're in the car and we're so excited to go to the port and then this happens. So I bring Erin into first person, all right? So there are 4 components to good storytelling. You want to actually become a good storyteller because people remember how you made them feel. Right? And during that story, you can actually give them an emotional connection. When I told this story to my parents, and by the way, they rarely listen to they don't really listen that often, but I learned how to use the hooks. They were like, oh my God, what happened? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And by the way, my impulse was to tell them, we got there on Friday, we left there the following Friday, this is what happened, because that's how I was thinking. When I thought, because I was studying this on the plane, use the hook, I had their full attention. My mom was like, what happened? Well, what happened? How did it happen? Right? Okay, you want that to happen. You want people to be listening to your stories. Consistency. This is really important. As you're approaching, as you're connecting with people, you want to schedule your follow-up. So at all of my meetings with people, with prospects, I say, when can I reach back out to you? Right? I'm planting the seed for the next follow-up. So that's a high-level way to brand yourself in business, right? Be early. How many of you all are 5 or more minutes early for your meetings? Okay, how many of you all are exactly on time? Okay, how many of you all are often 2 to 3 minutes late because you couldn't get off the last call? Okay, I got a hand. Yes, I used to be that way, and by the way, oftentimes that can happen. Even being on time, y'all, when I interview people for jobs and they're 5 minutes early and I can see them show up in the Zoom room, I think this is who I want on my team, right? How many of you all could say that when someone's early, it helps you feel like you've got a great supportive colleague? Yes. Okay, so being early, giving yourself, getting there 5 minutes early is huge, right? And if you can get there early and be there before the person comes in, maybe have a bottle of water for them or offer to get their coffee, right? You show up prepared. Send reminders. Remember, you're dealing with executives, people who are quite busy. Send reminders. Let them know 2 days before. I'm so excited to meet you at 8 a.m. at your bank. I can't wait. Is there anything else you need from me, right? I always send reminders. You can automate that, but that is huge. Because how many of you all deal with cancellations in your meetings? Yeah, so this is a way to get in ahead of it. You want to make sure you're sending reminders. And by the way, after your meetings, John, it was so powerful to meet with you. I'm so glad to have you as a strategic partner. I can't wait for our next meeting and to help your organization have a strong event this year. It's going to be so powerful, right? Okay, so that is huge. How many of you all could send a follow-up thank you where you're planting the seed? Yes, we're doing this partnership. How many of you all think that could be valuable? Huge, right? Huge. Okay, this is how we get the numbers up. All right, forward thinking and being strategic. This is really important. So you want to think of yourself as a business owner. You all are in the fundraising world, but you got to put yourself in the business owner mindset. You want to think about their strategic plan. When do they do their budgets? When are they having their meetings? How can you get on the strategic plan, okay? So you got to understand your prospects' timelines. You got to be asking those questions. You want to, for yourself, every year, with my clients, for myself, we develop a strategic plan for the year. Do your teams develop strategic plans? Is that a yes? Okay, and you want to have your own. You want to say, I need to reach out to this many prospects, right? Writing it down, that's important. Your goals, you want written. Because if you can check in, hey, are we doing this? Are we on track to meet our goals? You're more likely to achieve them. So make sure you're writing down. I'm wondering if my friends here in the front are writing down their actions. How can you improve on the forward thinking and strategic? By the way, if you have prospects that you are, looking to connect with, you want to know what their planning is like, right? Do you think that would be helpful? Okay, I know we're going through a lot of material here. How is everyone doing? Is it valuable? Woo! Okay, all right. This is huge. Okay, diversity and inclusion. This is so valuable to consider. So as a team, you want to think about how can you use your platform to foster belonging in others and to amplify voices, okay? And when we think about diversity and inclusion, we're thinking about anyone that may experience disenfranchisement or a feeling of not belonging, right? So important. I want to tell you a quick story. I was speaking at an HR event, and there was a woman who spoke right before me, and she had lived in California and worked for this wealth management firm. She is a queer woman, and she would go to the holiday parties, and she would always invite her friend because she knew that the partners at her firm never acknowledged that she was queer, never acknowledged that, and also they weren't really even interested. Well, she worked for them for years, and she decided to make a move. So she moves to another financial firm. She goes to the holiday party, and the managing partner comes up to her and says, I'm so happy to meet your partner. And she was taken aback because she had hidden this in her prior firm. But that shifted her capacity to be herself in her organization, right? So we want to think about how can we actually use our platform to create this space of belonging and amplify voices. Now, when we think about cancer survivors, how many of you all have worked with cancer survivors who have a lot of shame? Have a lot of shame and feel like maybe they have become invisible or they've kind of stepped away. They had to kind of hide their condition, right? If you can shift, if you can create an opportunity for them to be empowered, that is huge, right? You've just used your platform to absolutely empower someone else. So here, you can also suggest them as speakers. As you're building your network, you're probably gonna attend events, galas. You might suggest someone as a speaker, yourself or someone that is connected in your network, right? By the way, you're gonna use this to create safety for others. If you can do this, if you can create a space where people feel valued, where you amplify voices, you will create safety. And you want to make sure you always have resources for people. This is how you get awareness. This is how you this is how we can support you, right? Okay, now there's lots of details in your resources in the back on how you can increase your brand in this area, right? This is my favorite one. My would you mind handing me some water? Aspirational affiliation. Thank you so much. All right, that is Mike. He's fantastic. We love Mike. What is aspirational affiliation? This is huge. Aspirational affiliation is people want to be connected with you because you elevate them, right? You hold yourself to a higher standard. You've shared your why. They want to be on your team. They want to be successful like you are. And by the way, successful, this has nothing to do with money or outcomes. This has to do with your impact, with your purpose. Okay, so when you know your narrative, when you know who you are, what you stand for, what your purpose is, how you connect with something bigger, that becomes incredibly attractive. So I work with a credit union, and when I shared this, I talked about how people want to elevate their status. And he was like, well, I don't think we talk about status here. And I said, I promise you, and this was a CFO who holds himself to a very high standard. He's a young CFO in his early 30s, and he absolutely holds himself to a high standard. When people work with him, they elevate, right? How many of you all have had a boss who elevates you, right? They see your potential, maybe more so than you see it. And because of that, you kind of borrow their belief in you. At a coffee shop, I had a boss, a manager, who was the best boss I've ever had. She saw in me something I didn't see in myself. I couldn't, right? And so now, as a boss myself, I try and do that for my team. I try and see themselves bigger than they are. So remember, as you're building your brand, you're building possibility, right? You're building possibility for other people. So you want to have this quality of aspirational affiliation, that people want to be close to you because they aspire to be as effective and impactful as you are, right? Gina having conversations about how effective about what she's doing, about her mission, about what she's affecting through her work is absolutely going to inspire other people to be elevated like that. So you want to make sure you're doing that. So that's called transferring the narrative. Now, by the way, a designer clothes do this all the time, right? You could buy the same purse that's the same leather, made by the actual wholesaler, or you could buy it with give me a brand name. Gucci or Coach logo on it. When you carry the same purse, but it has the Coach logo on it, are you now affiliated with that brand? You're affiliated with what other people perceive. Now, we do that all the time, right? We do that all the time. Like, this is what it means to be a part of my team. And a way to do that is to name your team. We're Team Awesome. When you're a part of Team Awesome, this is what you get. This is how you elevate. I know our goal is 500,000, but Team Awesome always overshoots it, and we always hit 700. Or we go above and beyond, right? That's aspirational affiliation. So if I know that that's my team leader and I'm going to be on that team, we're going to set the standards high, but we're all going to push that vision, okay? So that's what it is. And by the way, we can do that all the time. We can do that with our families. We can do that with our friend groups. It's quite fun. And here's the biggest piece. Woo! If you can teach other people to transfer that narrative, just like I shared that with you, if you now go and say, hey, this is my narrative, this is the story I'm telling, and by the way, everyone who comes to work with Aaron, everyone who gets close to Aaron gets uplifted and has a big impact, right? That's transferring the narrative. You're telling people, if you come to my team, this is what we're gonna do. And by the way, even if you're feeling like you can't accomplish it, I'm gonna help you get there. Because we're all gonna do it together. All right, network. Here is very interesting. This kind of goes through to building connections. In your network, you want to fill your calendar with events. I'll tell you, we want to be going to 3 to 12 events a month. Now I'm going to tell you all a story. And I got to be quick here. In 2017, my business before this was I was a private chef. And that came out of being a personal assistant where I was working in someone's home. And let me just tell you, it wasn't that glamorous. I was de-seeding watermelon seeds from her in the summer because she didn't like genetically modified watermelons, and so that's what I would do. But she would buy stuff from the farmer's market, and I knew how to cook because I grew up in a family where we cooked. And so I would cook her food, and she said, this is amazing. She would bring food to me, and that's how I built that business of being a private chef. And it was incredible having this business. Well, in 2017, I said, you know what I really want to do is the thing that I don't know if I can be successful at. I don't know anyone who's doing coaching in New Orleans. I didn't know anyone who could do this, right? But I go to all these events. I pay to go to these events. And I hired a coach in New York, and she said, look, Mary Jane, if you can go to 3 to 5 events every week, 3 events for the next 52 weeks of 2018. And from there, each event you have on your schedule, each week, you get 7 or 8 one-on-one meetings from each event, which means when I add them up, I'm doing 32 one-on-one meetings a month where I'm asking for business. She said, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna build this business. And she said, can you do that? And by the way, at the end of December of 2017, I got an offer to be a private chef for a developer on the Florida coast, and the salary was more than I could have ever imagined making. It was like $50,000. And so, I know, that's where we were, right? And I thought, I gotta take this. It would be amazing, but they wanted me to come Monday through Friday. I had a few coaching clients. They wanted me to move out there, but I had a uniform. And by the way, there were 100 contestants for this job, and I was number 1. And so I thought about it. Anyway, I decided I can do 3 networking events. Now, I did not know how to find a networking event. And I said, if I have to do 12 a month, I got to figure out how to do this, right? That year, I made 2,000. It was a 20x, 2,000% more than I made in 2017 because I did it. I went to 3 networking events a week for 52 weeks, which transferred into about 32 to 40 one-on-one asks. By the way, I had to sit across from people and say, I would love to help you build your business. And it made me so incredibly uncomfortable because I'm sitting here thinking, this person's making way more money than I am, right? Now, I know we're talking about business and you all are a nonprofit, but it's the same thing. It's an ask, okay? So there we go. You got to build proximity, and here we go, turn cold to warm. What does that mean? Turn cold to warm. Good, get to a yes. But the thing is, I gotta meet people I don't know. I have to go out there and meet the stranger, and I have to make them feel warm. I have to create that proximity, right? And the quickest way to turn cold to warm is through organizations where you have similar affiliations. So by the way, if you're in this organization and you know that you're connected to philanthropy, you could go to other philanthropy events, right? Connect with other people who have an interest in donations or in connecting to something bigger than them. Church, temples, mosques, school events, all of those things, you have an affiliation there. All right, I have no idea what just happened. There we go. Okay, thought leadership, you have to be willing to go first. Make sure you write that down, write an idea on here. Thought leadership is about sharing boldly, sharing your concepts, being willing to be wrong, collaborating with your peers, elevating ideas, share ideas that other people have. You want to be seen as a leader, as a thought leader. By the way, you have resources for this in the back of your pamphlet. And continuous learning, you want to make sure you're continuously growing, building more value. How are we doing? Okay, really good? Okay. So you want to make sure you're continuing to provide more value to other people. And how do we do that? How do we provide more value? By listening, by understanding. Probably some of you all have to do a little bit more research maybe on organizations you are looking at as prospects. What is their strategic plan timeline? What is their budget season? When are they looking at this? Who is the person I need to connect with? Who do we know on LinkedIn? Who is the sphere of influence that can connect me with that person, right? That's all that learning, building your connections. Okay. All right, so on a few pages later, you're gonna have your sales funnel. We're just gonna go through this pretty quickly. You have lots of resources in here. Oops. So here's the sales funnel. Now, you all know how to do initiating contact, listening for the opportunity, but I'm gonna get you really strong on the widest portion of the sales funnel. This is where we gotta go quantity. This is where we have to meet people. Okay, so how do you find those 3 events that you got to get yourself in the door with? We're going to galas. How many of us can go to galas, sign up for galas? You want to get some free tickets? Could we go to galas, more galas? Yes. Okay, so you want to populate that list. I would love to see 12 events each month on your calendar, at least. BNI, does anyone know what BNI is? Yes? Do we know? Do we know? Who does not know? Okay, BNI, where do you live? Where do you live? Harrisburg is in Pennsylvania. We love it. All right, BNI groups, Business Networking International, right? You got wealth managers, CPAs, estate attorneys, lawyers, all kinds of people who pay to be in that group. They love visitors, and a lot of these people need to offset. They need charitable giving, right? Okay, BNI groups. There's about 14, 20 in New Orleans. I'm the president of one. If you all were hanging out, I would invite you to come as my guest. That's the room you need to be in. You can visit all of them 2 times without actually joining. Chamber of Commerce. You want to go to your Chamber of Commerce. You want to get in the business community. By the way, you've got 2 orders of business as you're out there prospecting. 1, you got to go find the prospects, right? The strategic partners, but you also want to connect with lots of other business owners because you want to make strategic connections and provide value for other people. Okay, so you're going to identify your key referral partners. Educational conferences are really valuable. Speaking engagements, you want to speak if you can, talk about what you do, see if you can do a 30-minute segment about something. It could be about helping people find their why. If you speak about finding your why and then you talk about a way to actually implement your why, you're going to be really effective. Fun engagements. So these are things that might be associations, areas where you might find and connect with high-value donors. Is that right? So we have lots of events like that in New Orleans. All right, can we go 5 minutes over? Okay. Okay, we'll go 3 minutes. All right, so lots of different things like that. Okay, so stage 2, here's the deal. You have 48 hours to get on their calendar. How many of you all have left those business cards on the table for a while? Yes, 48 hours, and you want to make sure you get them on the calendar. You're reaching out for coffee. You're connecting with that office. You could have a template email that you send out to everyone you meet. And by the way, at these BNI events or these gala events, you want to go and meet 10 to 12 people at least. You want to turn cold to warm, right? And your antenna is up for, here you go. Not how can they bring value to us, how can I bring value to them, right? If I connect with a relay event or the breast cancer walk in New York, I'm probably going to get around other people who are interesting, giving people that if I'm a business owner, I probably want to connect in that network. So look at it through the lens of how could this bring value to others. All right, you can also invite them to an event for them, like a relevant event that could be beneficial to your prospect. So you have to get in that business community. All right, you can provide tailored resources. Stage 3 is you have the meeting, right? You have the meeting and you're listening, you're asking questions. Now you all are all great at this. You're listening to what they need, what they can offer. You're listening to all of these things. Listen for their motivation and drive. Listen for their why, right? Understand their passion. Stage 4 is you ask for the opportunity. You're going to ask. You're going to have a clear ask. Now, by the way, we want to be firm in our ask. The suggestion is, I would love to have you as a partner for this. I think you all could absolutely have a great team. You're a real estate brokerage. We should have an event with your brokerage. This is going to put you on the map, but it's also going to get your realtors to elevate to something bigger than them. Now, am I on point that we could go to a real estate brokerage and do this? Huge, right? So you want to identify who are all the real estate brokerage prospects. They need to be doing things like this, connecting in the community. It's also valuable for their brand to connect with something bigger in the community. So you want to share, you want your finger to be on the pulse of how could this opportunity be meaningful for the person that you're communicating with, okay? You want to absolutely share that. Okay, I'm going to ask for 100% attention for the last 2 minutes. We're almost done. Stage 5, There are going to be a lot of people who hear that opportunity and they're a yes, maybe. Stage 5 is where you nurture them. You want to have articles. You want to have things that you can invite them to. You want to give them ways so that they can stay top of mind for you. So whatever those things are, you can come up with a bank of them. You can also host a networking event. You can also host an event where people that are a part of your organization can come and connect. Okay, now number 6 is you've secured them. They are going to be your donor. They're going to be your partner. You've got that connection. You're creating urgency. You're celebrating and thanking them. But here's the most important one after this. You're creating a champion. So not only have they become your person in your network, they're doing this, they're also recruiting other people. You're asking them, who else do you know? Who can you introduce me to? You're staying close to them. And these are going to be your spheres of influence. These are going to be the people who champion you over and over. So we need to have a list of these. We need to build them out. I know we filled a lot in our time together, but this is so important. The most important, the widest part of your sales funnel is getting new people in there, getting cold to warm, going out and meeting people. The narrowest place is your champions, but you want to make sure you know who they are. How many of you all know your champions? Have a list of your champions. Okay, how many of you all could do a better job of knowing your champions? And by the way, let's all raise our hands for this one. How many of you all could do a better job of converting your strategic partners to champions? All of us, right? That's asking for referrals. That's staying in touch with them. That's inviting them to lunch. All right, now as promised, I'm going to ask you all to do this. I think this is really important. To do this not at this moment, but at some point during this conference, I want you to tell someone that you do not know. This is going to be an assignment. Talk to someone here that you do not know and tell them your key takeaway from improving your brand. What are you going to do differently when you go back into the market? When you go back into your area and you're ready for big growth. So like I said, get up. All right, Mark. Mark Fuentes in the house.
Can I see slide 3 again?
Slide 3. Okay, I'm gonna come back to it in a sec. All right. All right, stretch a little. We're almost out of here. Okay, on the count of 3, I want you to imagine that we're meeting here again next year. Maybe we're in another city. And by the way, not only did you hit your goal, but you overshot it by 25%. And you know that you pushed yourself because there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of gap that you heard today. Like, this is where I am, but there's a lot of area for improvement, and I'm committed. I'm committed to being uncomfortable. I'm committed to doing these other things, okay? You've hit your goal 25% higher. Now I want you to cheer like you've hit your goal. My friend, Steven. Steven? Is that you? Yeah. Steven, what did your Relay for Life do? 430. So what? Woo! I think we're top 10. Top 10, Steven? Is that what you told me yesterday? Top 10? 8. All right. All right. So let's say Steven hits 600,000 2025 because he's employing everything here. Okay? Think about what that version, that number would be for you. Right? Now we come back here and we've hit those numbers. I want you to celebrate because, by the way, the thing that we're celebrating is not hitting that number, but becoming the person who did the thing that was so uncomfortable, that pushed past your comfort zone, grew, and now you've expanded your capability. You've grown so much over the past year. All right, so on the count of 3, we're gonna raise the roof and we are gonna celebrate and we're gonna high five our friends. Aaron, we're getting up there, we're raising the roof. All right, and I'm gonna be with you guys because I'm celebrating your success end of 2025. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, raise the roof. Woo! job. Y'all. Thank you. Okay, we can lower it. We can lower it. All right, thank you guys. Thank you so much for playing Full Out. This was awesome. You all are absolutely the best audience I have ever had with that. I'm so proud of you. Great job. And I'm so excited for your success. Great job for all of the selfless work you are doing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Remember to transfer that narrative because most people are going to jobs, making money, and they're feeling deeply unfulfilled. And I can feel the fulfillment in this room. So thank you for everything you do, and thank you for having me.